Good morning. Are the Baltimore Ravens the best team in the NFL? We will answer that question and many others today on the Shots and Tanier podcast, AFC North Preview. It is August 14th, 2025. I am Aaron Schatz. You know me as the DVOA guy from FTN Fantasy. He is Mike Tanier. You know him from his Substack at miketanier.substack.com. And we are here today to take your questions and comments and talk about the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Cleveland Browns. We will be playing football this year. It's true. And this is actually a division that we have pretty set in our playoff simulations, even though, you know, the Bengals have a great offense. We have the Ravens winning 71% of the time, with the Bengals winning 19%, the Steelers 8%, and the Browns 2%. The Browns have the hardest schedule. They have the fifth hardest schedule in the league. The other teams have pretty much average schedules.
It feels almost like I'd want to play an exact order prop with this. I mean, it's the Bengals and Steelers jockeying for second place in my mind that would screw up what I think of as a perfect prop, which is just play a exacta Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns.
Yeah, that and unexpected injuries.
Oh, yeah.
But this one feels pretty set. Well, let's talk about the Ravens first because they're the team that DVOA loves, right? The Ravens have been number one now in DVOA overall for 2 straight years, which is interesting because they did it in different ways. The 2023 team was the number one defense with a good offense.
Right.
And the 2024 team was the number one offense with a defense that was very average for the first half of the season.
Right.
And then they moved some things around, and Kyle Hamilton moved to playing only free safety. And then they were fantastic for the rest of the season. Probably the second best defense over the second half of the season behind Philadelphia.
Right.
And so now they're projected in the top 5 in all 3 phases of the game. And look again like the best team. They don't have the best win projection because they have a harder schedule than Buffalo, and they have to go to Buffalo in week 1. But again, like DVOA loves these guys, and there's been very little change from last year. They didn't really lose a lot. They lost their worst starting cornerback, Brandon Stevens. Oh, the shame.
Right. The guy they had to replace it anyway. I was on a Ravens adjacent radio show, actually out of Louisville, because they followed Lamar Jackson to the Ravens in Louisville. And they started asking me about the Ravens, and I said, I don't know what to say about this team in August. I say the same thing in Buffalo. I don't know what to say about this team in August. Here they are. They're awesome. They're going to smash their heads into a brick wall and each other come next January.
Right. What I keep saying is, first of all, sports history, NFL history, and sports history is filled with players and teams that, quote unquote, could not get it done in the playoffs until the year they did.
Right.
In football, you talk about Peyton Manning. You talk about the 1979 LA Rams. You talk about, in basketball, Jason Tatum. You talk about Barry Bonds, right? The Giants didn't win the World Series, but he had a really great playoffs and World Series in 2002 after being a guy who, quote unquote, couldn't do it in the playoffs.
Right.
And the problem is that only one of these teams can get over the hump. So even if the Chiefs get taken out, and even if no other team rises from the AFC, right, which is always a possibility,
right,
these two teams would still have to get past each other. They can't both break the curse in the same year.
Right. So somebody's going to be miserable no matter what. I'm starting to even look at the Ravens and Bills like they have the same strengths and weaknesses. I know that's not really true, but like when I start looking at their playmaker cores, it's like, they could use another guy. The Bills could use another guy. So could the Ravens in a different way. They've got Derrick Henry, but at receiver, they could use another guy. I look at their defense and like, we're really talking about depth here, and especially depth on the defensive front. That's on both teams. I have a hard time even saying why I should care in week 1, for example, why I would pick one over the other besides home field advantage.
Yeah, I honestly don't know why you would pick one over the other in week 1 other than home field advantage.
Right.
Buffalo has the easier schedule overall.
Right.
and they have the home field advantage when these teams play in week one.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Buffalo is my Super Bowl pick and not Baltimore, because those things lead to the idea that Buffalo is more likely to have the number one seed, provided that Kansas City doesn't pull another couple of games out of their butt and get 15-2 again and get the number one seed again themselves.
Right. But here's the X factor. Michael Phelps is teaching the Ravens how to swim.
Oh, you saw that. I saw that too.
Now, if Derrick Henry learns how to swim, he's basically Aquaman. That's it. He owns all planet Earth at this point. But if they're teaching that'll help. If there's an underwater game, the Ravens might have an advantage there. And also, with Michael Phelps teaching the Dolphins how to swim, the Ravens how to swim, I hear that Flipper is going to be teaching the Dolphins how to play football.
The vibes are so good in Miami.
Come on, give me that. Comedy points. Go on.
My shock was from seeing the news reports about Michael Phelps teaching the Ravens how to swim, how svelte Ronnie Stanley is for a left tackle. He's not he's very muscular rather than fat. Like, I realize a lot of offensive linemen are, but you still think of them as really big men.
Yes. And
he didn't come off as that big. I was like, wow, he's not as offensive lineman-y as I thought he would be.
I stood next to him a couple of times, and he's just massive. But now that you mention it, he didn't have that the Jason Peters body that I would sometimes. Right. A veteran tackle. Those guys tend to get thicker as they get bigger. Apparently, he hasn't. Maybe it's the swimming. It's incredible whole body exercise.
E-Dog, the big dog, says Lamar Jackson is the NFL's Joel Embiid, and that's coming from a Sixers fan. I don't think that's true, because isn't part of the problem with Embiid that he's constantly getting hurt?
He's getting hurt these days, and earlier on he was stuck with all the Ben Simmons guys and stuff like that. So, but right. I'm in the zone here.
First of all, Embiid gets hurt a lot, and Lamar Jackson, that's never been the problem.
A couple years ago. But.
And also, I don't know who would be the Ravens' Ben Simmons.
Don't wish that on any team in the
right?
NFL.
Tyreek Hill is kind of the Ben Simmons these days, talking about the bad vibes in Miami. So
yeah, bad vibes and then never showing up. You need the combination there. I don't know who that would even be. Don't wish that on the NFL.
It really is interesting, because for all of these previews, I've been putting together these lists of in and out, and really there's very little change on the Ravens. Nelson Aguilar out, DeAndre Hopkins in. Brandon Stevens out, however many games of a healthy Jair Alexander you can get in.
So that would be 4 games of Jair Alexander. They're happy with how TJ Tampa, who I believe is DJ Dallas's little brother, they're happy with how he's playing. And Chidi Awuzie is also running around playing well. A little bit of a blast from the past, maybe more of a nickel guy, but they do have some other options for when Alexander gets hurt, which is soon.
And Ardarius Washington hurt. Malachi Starks, the first-round pick, in.
Yep.
And then guard Patrick McCarry out. And then the kicker change.
And it sounds like Tyler Loop has won that job. I heard he was 7 of 9 yesterday on field goals, that he kicked a 57-yarder. We saw him in the preseason game kicking the ball pretty well. They got rid of his competitor, so it sounds like Tyler Loop has the job. And
don't forget, by the way, if you're watching us live on YouTube, we're here on 11 a.m. Thursdays, Mondays and Thursdays. Once the season starts, you can ask questions and make comments. And Andrew says, did you hear Lamar is finally a tier 1 quarterback in the eyes of the league? It only took the best passing DVOA ever. I read the tiers article by Mike Sando in The Athletic. I am shocked that anybody could put Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen in tier 2.
Yeah, you get the mentality. I know Sandro talks to a lot of legitimate experts, high-level insiders in the league. You get a look in their minds. Some of the dumbest takes you'll ever hear, folks, are from the minds of general managers and head coaches. Please trust me, trust Aaron, trust anybody. You'll hear crazy stuff from these guys. And that's just a groupthink mentality that somebody's out there saying, well, Lamar Jackson, and they're basing it off of their scouting report from 2017 and not objective reality.
I mean, there's 4 tier 1 quarterbacks as far as I'm concerned, and they're all in the AFC. If I was doing Mike's thing, I would be like, there are 4 tier 1 quarterbacks: Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, and Burrow.
Right. And then there's that big tier 2. with lots of guys, and we will all fight for our guys. Eagles fans will fight for Hurts. The film guys will fight for Herbert. Niners fans will fight for Purdy.
Spinal doctors will fight for Matthew Stafford.
Yes, spinal doctors and witch doctors will be fighting for Matthew Stafford. Right. And early adopters will be fighting for Daniels, but they were fighting for Stroud last year. And maybe some folks are still fighting for Stroud. And the fact that you can put 6 people in a conversation means that's a tier. That is the definition of a tier.
Yes. Red Matt says, I literally saw someone saying he's not a good passer yesterday. I don't even know how that is still possible.
Who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Shut off Facebook.
Because, again, like you're talking about, they don't even have they don't have the best receivers. I do think their receivers are better than Buffalo's.
Yeah.
But because Zay Flowers, as a slot guy, Bateman. It's interesting. Bateman is their wide receiver 1 because if you look at who the opponent covers with their best cornerback, it's usually Bateman.
Yeah.
And now DeAndre Hopkins, and then the tight ends. Likely is hurt, but it sounds like Likely will be back by the start of the regular season. And then Mark Andrews, and of course, Henry was fantastic last year, but he's not really a receiver.
Right.
And this is just a really great all-around team. Like there aren't a lot of weakness. I mean, their weaknesses, like I say about Buffalo, every team has a weakness. This team has relative weaknesses.
Yeah.
I don't really know if Andrew Voorhees is ready to be a starting left guard.
Right.
But for the most part, this is a really strong team on both sides of the ball. You probably could have better edge rushers.
Yeah, they've been playing the succession game for years at edge rusher. So it's always a guy who was on the bench for a couple of years and then kind of had a breakout year and has one more breakout year and then gets sent away as a free agent someplace else and they bring the next guy in. To your earlier point, though, with that playmaker core, if you gave that to a lesser quarterback, we'd be talking about, they need more weapons. Rashad Bateman shouldn't be a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Flowers is more of a nifty, shifty guy. You give him to Lamar, and suddenly we're talking about, is Lamar that good a passer? Well, obviously, he's been working with Nelson Aguilar's of the world for many, many years.
Right. And put up, Baltimore had the highest pass DVOA of any team ever last year.
Right.
A little bit of that is because scrambles are counted in the team stats as passes, but still, they were incredible last year. And they're not likely to be that good again because, when you're an extreme, you come back to the pack. But their defense is not going to struggle in the first half of the season the way it struggled in the first half of the season last year.
Well, let's hooray Lamar Jackson finally getting some validation from.
So we fast forward. It does feel in the AFC like we fast forward to the playoffs.
Yep.
Fast forward past the first round. Yep. And get to Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, and random team number 4, and then we get serious.
Yep. Random team number 4 could come from this division, though, based on how these other 2 teams that we care about will stack up.
Right. And I would think the more likely one is Cincinnati. So let's talk about the Bengals. Because the Bengals missed the playoffs last year, but they had an essentially Bengals season, which is the offense was very, very good, and the defense was bad. So they've changed the defensive coordinator, and they've tried to bring in a couple of pieces on defense, but they can't see – I feel like they're going to get Hendrickson in. Trey Hendrickson is going to sign. This is just a lot of sound and fury indicating nothing. And Hendrickson will play, and then they'll have him along with Shamar Stewart and Miles Murphy and Oside. So they've got a pass rush. But listening to Mina Kimes talk about the first week of the preseason, I think she was right when she said – the Bengals are going to have to try to manufacture a lot of defense. They can't just throw their guys out there and play defense and feel like they're going to be able to be any good. They've got to try to manufacture defense by doing stunts and blitzes and weird coverages and all kinds of things. But the offense can just throw its guys out there and they'll just score a bunch of points.
Right, and you did kind of see that against the Eagles. Now, it was the Eagles' backup, certainly, but the Bengals' first-team offense went out there and just left a path of destruction in their wake. Bengals defense,
and then the Eagles' second-string offense went out there and left a path of destruction in their wake.
In their wake against the non-Hendrickson, mostly starters, although there were only mostly starters. They're going to have to manufacture because Hendrickson is the one guy who's well, this is a win. He'll win on his own. who else on that pass rush is going to win on his own. Maybe we'll see that with Shamar. We're not sure. The back end, they've got some injuries at the back end at cornerback. It's not an elite secondary at the same time. So what they're going to have to do back there is make sure they're scheming up coverage, tight coverage, not expect to go out there, hit a lot of man coverage and win one-on-one. So it's what we're all expecting, I think, which is going to be shootouts, and more shootouts.
Yeah, and I mean, it is interesting, the offense, because the two wide receivers are so good.
Yeah.
If they had an injury to either of those guys, oh my God. Because it's Andre Yoshavash and then that guy Jermaine Burton, who was just a disaster off the field last year. And Charlie Jones, who's a fourth rounder from 2000. Like, it's really a bunch of nobodies past Higgins and Chase. They do not have depth if they end up with an injury to one of those guys.
Right. I kind of liked Charlie Jones coming out. I think he made a few plays last year. The tight end is Gesicki, so he's kind of like your big slot because he doesn't really play tight end. I like Chase Brown at running back, but we're not talking about Derrick Henry, et cetera. So, yeah, it is a little bit like Higgins, and certainly Chase are at that Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill level of value where if something happens there, it's an uh-oh. And the offensive line, I mean, you got all those
new guards. They have a third-round pick named Dylan Fairchild, who's currently listed as the starter at left guard. Yes. Lucas Patrick, who's been with the Bears and Packers before, is the right guard.
You see the fight yesterday?
No. Who got in a fight yesterday?
Well, Shamar, the rookie, got through Lucas Patrick and was off balance and stumbled into Joe Burrow. And Lucas Patrick, who fans might remember as one of Aaron Rodgers' buddies, did what offensive linemen are supposed to do, got up and went after Shamar, and a fracas broke out. You can go see it. It's kind of a nothing burger there, but it's an indication that Patrick has been around the league for a while. That's not somebody I look at and say, oh, you've got guards settled with this guy. He's sort of a journeyman spot starter type.
Michael Allen Brewer says, which will help the Bengals in September more? Playing their starters in preseason, which is the first time they've done that in years.
Yes.
Or playing the Browns, Jaguars, and Vikings. I mean, Browns, Jaguars, and Vikings, if I'm right about the Jaguars, is not the most completely easy trio, because the Vikings still should have a good defense. We just don't know what to expect out of the quarterback. The Browns, we'll get to the Browns a little later. Again, also, I think should have a good defense. Yes. But obviously their offense is a pit of hell. It is an interesting question about whether playing the starters in September is going to help. One that I feel like is unresearchable. Right. Because I feel like, especially with the change in the last couple of years to only 3 preseason games, it's very difficult to look at the last 3 or 4 years of the preseason and feel like you have enough of a sample to make a real research statement about whether you should play starters in the preseason or not.
Agreed. I tried to do it a couple of years ago, and it looked like there might have been a signal there in terms of comparing whether or not you played preseason to the first couple of weeks of the year. But we're talking about like, oh, maybe there's a blip on the Geiger counter. If you think it's a problem, if it's been a persistent problem, sometimes making the change to make the change to demonstrate you're addressing the problem is useful. I don't think they should play anymore. I can't imagine putting Jamar Chase out there for another week after they played a couple of series after the Eagles. You're tempting fate there. I look at that's got to be a 2-1 start for the Bengals. If they go 1-2,
it's likely to be a 2-1 start. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's likely to be a 2-1 start. But the Vikings are a challenge, and the Jaguars, if I'm right, the Jaguars and Vikings are average teams.
If you start out 1-2 against that, it's like you're just telling me who you are, I think. Obviously, the Bengals could rebound. They always rebound. They're telling me who they are when we're talking about doing anything except another mad dash to try and get a playoff berth at the end.
Andrew says the Bengals are a Ferrari that is potentially capable of winning any race, but also fundamentally mechanically unsound.
That's the Dolphins. That's the Dolphins, guys.
Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lord knows you're not going to hear enough about these guys this year, given who their quarterback is. Although, the funny thing, in the preseason at least, I feel like NFL Network has not gone too crazy on the Steelers. When I do have NFL Network on, I don't feel like I'm getting Aaron Rodgers to death. My girlfriend hates Aaron Rodgers with the passion of 1,000 suns because she feels like every time I'm watching a game, they start talking about Aaron Rodgers, even if Aaron Rodgers is not in that game. I think we may have gotten past that point at this point.
Yeah, I think that 2 years ago, they felt burnt by it. All that Jets hype. It's like everyone punched themselves out. And now you're in Pittsburgh, and like there's a little bit of a reality that like he might not sustain that level of interest. Also in Pittsburgh, they keep such a lid on things that it's hard to constantly be getting updates in terms of, it's not like the Jets where they like welcome the media in to go gonzo all over their camp. You're not really true. There's only a few reporters out there. Obviously, you can send your insiders. You can send Ian Rappaport, whoever. You're not going to get these big, juicy slice of life things from the Steelers. And I think Aaron Rodgers has also shut the media down a little bit as well.
Will G says, Pittsburgh will be good. That team was built for Aaron Rodgers. I disagree.
I agree with you. I disagree with them.
I feel like, sorry, I'm totally blanking on Arthur Smith is not a good match for Rodgers.
Correct.
Because Arthur Smith wants to run an under center play action offense.
Yep.
I feel like DK Metcalf is not necessarily a good match for Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. And who's their number 2? Roman Wilson?
The number 2 is Robert Woods.
He is fading on the depth chart. And
the slot is Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson.
Right. You know what team was built for Aaron Rodgers? The Jets team that was literally built for Aaron Rodgers.
For Aaron Rodgers.
Yes. Built to his specifications by him for his own players and his friends. I think the defense of the Steelers is built to accommodate a veteran, don't lose the game type quarterback, go out there, be competent, and the defense will win some games for you. I think that's true. But I don't see anything about this to say, oh, yeah, man, they've customized perfectly for Aaron Rodgers.
And Rodgers is a real avoider of interceptions. Like he's risk averse at this point.
Yeah,
so they will, what they want is a veteran quarterback who avoids interceptions. They have that. I will say a good offensive line.
Yeah.
I don't think people talk enough about the Pittsburgh offensive line. Fautanu, the right tackle, was good last year as a rookie. Zach Frazier, the center, very good last year as a rookie. Sayamalu, still good. Mm-hmm. Jonnu Smith is there now, so there's going to be a lot of 2 tight end stuff. Doesn't really matter who the slot receiver is because there'll be a lot of 2 tight end with Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith.
Yes. And
the Caleb Johnson, the nice running back who got out of that Travis Hunter tackle in the first preseason game.
Right. I'm not the biggest Johnson fan, but they're going to go 2 and 3 tight ends because they're happy with Washington. He had a touchdown. They've been real happy with how he's looked in camp too.
He is a big man.
He's very large.
He is an offensive tackle sized man.
Yeah, he and Ronnie Stanley, I would be like they're almost similar in terms of their just magnitude.
The defense is interesting. The DVOA projection system has them regressing. Some of that is that they were very high in takeaways per drive last year.
Okay.
It's interesting to have a discussion about age because here I am, the person who's been saying the fact that the Washington defense is so old doesn't mean they're going to be bad because the average old defense is average.
Interesting.
The question is, with the Steelers, does the fact that they're very old on defense mean that they're going to be more average? Because the average old defense is average. And they have Hayward is quite old at this point and angry about his contract.
Right.
Watt is now in his 30s. Darius Slay, 30s. Jalen Ramsey, 30s. Yeah. How they're going to use Jalen Ramsey. I mean, I guess Jalen Ramsey is going to be the nickel and Beanie Bishop got demoted. But the safety, you have Juwan Thornhill and Deshaun Elliott now at safety without Minkah Fitzpatrick. I don't know. It's interesting to see what happens with the defense because there are some players that if you don't think about their age, you think, if you could take the peak of TJ Watt and the peak of Cameron Hayward and the peak of Jalen Ramsey and the peak of Darius Slay, holy crap.
Right. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people look at them and they envision all these guys at their peaks and they're not all done by any stretch of the imagination, but they're getting to the point where you have to say somewhere along the way, there's going to be age issues. One of the things I heard, by the way, coming out of camp is that Porter has been the guy they've been locking on Metcalf a lot.
Yeah, he's the number one. He's clearly their number one corner. If I remember correctly from last year, he covers wide receiver 1 more than almost any other corner in the league. Not quite at Christian Gonzalez level, but like a lot.
He's definitely a big guy matchup guy. So I'd be worried about like the skinnier guys.
It kind of makes sense. If your dad was a linebacker, you're probably not a small corner.
Right. So he's a big matchup guy, and Ramsey's a big matchup guy. I think they're going to protect Slay a little bit. They used to run cover 3 a lot. He'd be the guy kept close to the line of scrimmage. They've got interesting options back there. But you're right. I'm looking at this as like, am I really seeing a top 5 defense? I think I might be seeing a top 12 defense. And what's that going to mean for an offense that's probably going to be station to station on a quarterback whose best attribute right now is, let's say, experience and turnover avoidance?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have the Steelers lower than conventional wisdom. I'm not ready to completely go to the mats for that projection, but I'm fairly comfortable with it.
I'd go to the mat for it. I think that there's a high percentage of absolute collapse. I think that we could be seeing – I keep seeing Aaron Rodgers having Matt Ryan's Colts here. I keep saying –
Oh, yeah, that would be bad.
That's what I see in my mind. Yeah, so
Michael Allen Brewer says, I'm surprised they don't have a tush-push package for Washington. I have 8 letters for you. J. Pegs. Pagoos.
Yes.
Pagoos. If you want a tush-push package, that guy from the Raiders, that's your tush-push guy.
I want that so badly. And what Aaron is talking about, he was a defensive end, I think, who played for Ole Miss, and he was their tush-push specialist. He would do short yardage runs. And not only do short yardage runs like sneaks, but do like wildcats and stuff like that. So 290-pound man, put him in the backfield, have like Bobby Wagner push him. Zach Ertz probably knows how to push. Do it. Don't risk Daniels. We all want to see this.
Finally, let's talk about the team that is on everybody's lips in the AFC North, thanks to their exciting quarterback battle. And that is the Cleveland Browns. Wait, I'm going to answer a question first. Daniel Swan wants to know, does the amount that home field advantage is worth differ by team? Terrible towels and Tomlin seem to be the only thing that propels Steelers to all this overachieving. Historically, there is no consistency to which teams have a better home field advantage. If you look over a lot of years, if you look over like 10 years at a time, there's really no team with a better home field advantage than any other team. I know there's other research that suggests that Denver does have a because in every sport, because of the altitude. We also didn't talk about Tomlin. If I'm wrong about the Steelers, the reason is Tomlin. The man is magic when it comes to locker room management and in-game management. I know that sounds crazy to people, but he historically constantly wins more games than you would expect from the underlying statistics, and his management of crazy people like Antonio Brown is astonishing.
All true. And keeping the veterans healthy with the program, that's another thing he's been doing for many, many years.
Okay, Cleveland Browns, let's talk about the quarterback before we get into why I like their defense to rebound. My feeling is Shedeur Sanders went out there and played against a second-team defense like you would expect a guy that everybody expected to go in the second round or so to play, right? Like it was obvious from the way he played that he should not have fallen to the 5th round.
Right.
But it also wasn't like, oh, he's going to go out there now and be Jaden Daniels for the whole – like, don't get too crazy about this.
No, he kind of looked like – actually, he looked a little bit like the 5th-round quarterback sometimes in the 3rd preseason game goes out, where he's creative and scrambling and running around and making plays with his legs and also running backwards sometimes on 4th and 2. And
that's his thing, right, is he panics under pressure sometimes and loses it, kind of.
Does wacky, like Sam Erlinger type of stuff. And that was what we saw at Colorado a lot, and that's what we saw in this game, and he got away with it a couple times, which is fine. That's the type of thing that causes a head coach migraines because you wind up, like on 4th down, taking a 20-yard sack, for example, when you'd be better off just eating the ball, better off throwing an interception at that point.
The other thing is they like Dillon Gabriel. They drafted Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round for a reason. There is a reason they drafted Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders. You and I may not understand what that reason is.
Nope.
But they did it because that's what they believe in. So I still feel like the best choice for the Browns is to cut Pickett and go with Flacco and the 2 rookies. But when the time comes for one of the rookies to get a start, Gabriel comes first. He's the one they like.
Okay. He's been hurt, though.
I'm not saying I would put Gabriel first.
Okay.
I'm saying I think they're going to put Gabriel first.
They're going to put Gabriel first. We're going to see Gabriel, I think, against the Eagles Friday night. I think it's Friday night.
Yeah.
So we'll get a little more. And again, I don't understand this. He combines the worst elements of Bo Nix and Bryce Young, in my opinion. But maybe they think he combines the best elements of Bo Nix and Bryce Young. And I'm talking about Dylan Gabriel. He will be very pesky. He will be very feisty. He is about 4'7" tall. So we'll see. I think Pickett, by the way, is going to wind up on a PUP list. And that's how they're going to
That's also a good thing would be a good thing to do, just to put him on the bench for 6 weeks and then figure out what happens. Maybe Flacco gets hurt or something.
Yeah.
Will G wants to see Shedeur Sanders versus a first-team defense with a first-team offense. Colorado versus any good team with that line was horrible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the problem is it's the preseason. You're not going to see Shedeur Sanders with the first-team offense, especially now that he's hurt his oblique and he's not playing this week.
Right.
The defense for the Browns, I think, is rebounding. And in the book, we talk about they're one of 7 teams to go from a top 5 to a bottom 5 pass defense in 1 year.
Okay.
And those teams on average rebounded to be 13th the next year.
Okay.
This team still has, first of all, they still have Myles Garrett.
Yes.
Who's maybe the best defensive player in football.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Schwartz is still a good defensive coordinator.
Secondary is great.
Cornerback should rebound. Denzel Ward is better than he played last year.
Right.
Mason Graham is a nice addition.
Yes.
I feel like this can be a top 12 defense.
I can say it. And I think sometimes when we talked about how there's no statistical evidence that like defenses break when they're on the field too much. Yeah. I think there's anecdotally times where it's like this offensive situation is so effed up that we have to go out there and start taking risks and doing wacky things.
Well, if that's the case, that's going to be the case this year because that offensive situation is still a mess.
Right. And then the only saving grace is maybe more of the risks pay off. You get more interceptions and gamble and guess touchdowns or whatever, and it looks better. But that's still a possibility. But you're right. From a personnel standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, it should be a very good defense.
I like the Browns over 4.5.
Okay.
Because I feel like this defense is good enough that they will steal a game or two and they'll go like 5-12.
I mean, over 4.5, you're talking to me right there. And
that's a really low number.
That's a really low number. I'm going to see what the action is on that. I'm only getting minus 160 on it, unfortunately. But maybe I could find better odds somewhere. But yeah.
I don't know if I would be comfortable going with the over 5.5, even though that probably has plus odds.
That has plus odds, absolutely. And I'm not sure I'm there, which is kind of like where we're landing on this. But yeah, especially with mix and match quarterbacking. Like, Flacco manages a game where Garrett has 5 sacks. There's a win. Shedeur comes out and surprises everybody. That's a win or two. Gabriel comes out and surprises everybody. That's a win or two. Pickett comes off the bench and game manages. You can see how there'd be enough of those things stacked up. Ward getting some pick sixes, some Rodgers getting hurt, and Mason Rudolph doing something stupid, whatever. You can get to 4 so easily. Get to 5 so easily.
Will G says, if you have Garrett, you can compete. If I was the Browns with Parsons wanting out of Cowboy land, I would be trying everything to sign him. 2 things I'll say to that. Yeah. 3 things. 1, Parsons does not want to go to Cleveland.
Nope.
2, this is why it would have been interesting if the Browns had held on to the number 2 pick and taken Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
Who was awesome in his first preseason game, even though that's just a preseason game, but it got against the Bills starters.
Yes.
3rd, I wrote about this for the ESPN future rankings. The Browns are going into free agency hell after this year.
Oh, yeah.
They have the most free agents for 2026. 4 of their starting 5 offensive linemen are free agents.
Woo,
plus Tevin Jenkins, who they signed from the Bears to be the swing guy, only signed a 1-year contract. So he's a free agent. Mm-hmm. And their cornerbacks are going to be free agents. And linebackers are going to be free agents. Like, they have a lot of free agents, after this year. So they're going to be in a really weird, hey, we're a bad team. By the way, everybody come play for us.
Right. Batonio, Teller, Joku, Pochik, Conklin, Tryon Sharika, Flacco, Pickett, Greg Newsome, Tevin Jenkins. This is a pretty impressive list of free agents that they're going to have to either sign or replace next year. They have cap issues due to the quarterback situation from a couple of years ago. And also, I don't think the Cowboys are picking up the phone and listening to trade requests. You can talk about they're just sitting around. They're just dickering around, let's say.
Just sign. I mean, I feel about Parsons, about McLaurin. I mean, McLaurin, it's more of a feeling of you have to do this if you're Washington.
Right.
And you know he's going to decline. He's 30.
Yes.
You're going the back end of that McLaurin contract you will regret.
Right.
But you have the great rookie quarterback now. You're trying to compete now.
Right.
Parsons is younger than McLaurin is. But he's so good. How do you not sign? Why is he not signed?
Peters was doing the same thing in San Francisco. It's like, we're going to regret the end of the Christian McCaffrey deal, the George Kittle deal. Yeah, but until then, go to the Super Bowl. You still got another year this year in San Francisco where those guys are probably still good. You do that with McLaurin. You say you're doing a risk management on the back end of things. You can't balance the books on your wide receiver one when you just had a breakout season.
All right, that does it for our AFC North preview. I want to thank everybody for joining us this week. Again, we're here at 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube on Thursdays for the next 2 Thursdays, and then we go to our Mondays and Thursdays once we've played week 1 of the season so that we can review games. It's going to be very exciting. Don't forget that the FTN Football Almanac is still for sale if you haven't bought it yet, ftnfantasy.com/almanac. There it is with our man Jalen Carter on the cover. And, we'll talk about the AFC South next week, where we have a surprising division favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And also a rookie quarterback, so the Titans, you never know. There's some interesting stuff going on in the AFC South. So that's next week. Hope you like this show. Have a good week, everybody. Don't forget to read Mike's Substack, miketanier.substack.com. And we'll see you next week. So long.